On this episode of the John 1911 Podcast, range work, French sniper drama, are Tisas any good, and the worst arson story ever. Okay, good evening everybody. This is episode 409 of the John 1911 Podcast. Today is Sunday, July 19th at 9:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is going to be a solo episode. I was supposed to do a podcast with the boys this weekend, but unfortunately things got a little hectic and unexpectedly busy at the John 1911 range, and I was out there for 3 days. But got a lot done. So this will be a solo episode to kind of run down all the things going on and some stuff that's going on in the armory, and just a few things, maybe just some old business to just kind of knock off the to-do list. So first thing is, I guess I've touched on this already on social media, but I don't think I've quite really addressed it yet on the podcast. We have hired a property manager for the John 1911 range. Basically, they take care of the property from the rifle shooting positions back. So like backward, back towards the road. So they do, like everything. Like they're cutting the grass, they're weeding, they're taking care of the berms, they're taking care of the shooting positions, they're taking care of, they're putting down, weed killer and that kind of stuff. I think the guy who just to reclaim the roads in the parking lot, I think he said he put down 17 gallons of weed killer. So, yeah. So, it was interesting. Unfortunately, he was working in the pit, and we have a pile of it's like cinder blocks and pieces of cinder block. We use them on I call them the IDPA stands, like the cardboard target stands, because we do get a fair amount of wind up there, and so I like to throw a rock under the stands, to keep them still so they don't blow over if we're shooting drills or there's people out there. Well, unfortunately, I guess some hornets had moved in to the pieces of cinder block, and he discovered them before I did. So he got whacked pretty hard working in the pit, and we've also hired a pest control guy who's done a bunch of stuff around the property. And I was like, do I need to call pest control? He's like, nah, I already took care of him with gasoline. So I didn't see any. I was in the pit this weekend. I didn't see any, but we'll have to give it a good once over, and all that. So other things we have, not that you really care, but we've been actually working on getting a lot of stuff organized at the John 1911 range inside the range barn. Had some unexpected and surprising help recently that has made a huge difference. So that is, going swimmingly. I really like that. Also, we had posted, I'd purchased this thing, I don't know, has it been 4 or 5 weeks ago? Maybe longer. It's been so crazy. It's a tartar, I guess it's technically called a fertilizer spreader, but it's a giant hopper that goes on the back of a tractor and on a 3-point hitch. And so, raise it up and down. And we finally got it. I got it connected this weekend to the Big Massey, because it's basically a Category 1 implement, a large Category 1, but it's still a Category 1 implement. This is tractor lingo for my non-tractor people. And I had to use some bushings and do some stuff to get it connected to our Category 2 tractor. It was a first, I had to disconnect one of the swing arms for the lift, so the lift arm could come in. That's how, the difference is between Category 1 and Category 2. We put in, I think it was 9 bags of tick granules, like tick killer. It's like a tick. It's granules. It's like a, but you might put on like fertilizer on the lawn. And so I can't remember how much the bags were, but let's just assume they're more than 10 pounds. They're probably 20-pound bags maybe. So, and we could have probably this hopper could probably hold 13 bags. So, with that, I was able to surprisingly quickly, it was a learning curve, to put down all the bags, and we started working around the range barn. I did most of the 600-yard shooting position, and I did I did a fair amount of the road going down to the pit, the rifle range, and I did around the like the picnic, the shooting, covered shooting position, called the picnic shelter, and then part of the pit. So we may have been throwing the stuff down a little bit too thick. So went through it fairly quickly. So all them ticks are dead. But we're going to get some more, and we've turned down the hopper a little bit, and we're trying to figure it out. And like, the hopper's rated for 540 RPM, but it throws at 40 feet and over 40 feet. And I don't know if I feel like it's reaching enough. Like, I don't know if it's dense enough. So we're playing with the RPMs on it. But I'm telling you, it makes such a difference to be able to sit in a tractor that's enclosed with AC, sealed, and I can turn this thing on and off from inside the tractor. Don't have to breathe all this crap and just get it out there. And it's going to make a big difference as I run, because we're going to be doing tick killer down the trails, going to in the impact zones, like the 100 to 200, 300, and the 500 and 600, and some of the random targets. So there's not going to be any alpha gal on the John1911 range. So that's been going on. And we've also I think I alluded to this with the pest control guy. We've had a full, I thought we had termites pop up in the range barn, which kind of, bugged me because we just built that thing. And it turns out, the good news was we had to hire a professional come in. And the good news was we do not have termites. We have carpenter ants. And so I'm told that is only a slight degree better than termites. So they had to come in and do this giant trenching all the way around the range barn, which, with some of the gravel we have with our drainage around that, I warned the guy. I'm like, dude, you're going to be hating life. Like, some of this gravel's pretty deep before you hit dirt. So, but they went and did it, and we've done all that. And then the final upgrade we're working on, we have finally found another electrician who's going to come in and take care of some projects in the barn. And then he's also going to get electric out to our gate. We've already had the trenching and the big money done. And then once that is done, we're going to have the electronic gate installed with a separate contractor, so we can open and close the gate remotely. We can give codes to people, for various people to come in and, and service, because we're going to have all these contractors coming in. I guess, let me go ahead and say this, like, just as a conceptual idea. One of the things that it's probably a character flaw that I have, but one of the things that I have limited myself on over the past number of years is my resistance to allowing strangers onto the property. Because one, there's liability. Two, we get a fair amount of looky-loos and people wanting to just kind of see what's going on and snoop around, and just sometimes inappropriate asks. So, it's kind of best just to keep a degree of separation from the masses. Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put it. It sounds terrible, but there's no other way to put it. There's a reason why Madonna has a giant wall around her house, and it's not just because she's crazy. So I don't know if that's appropriate to me or not, but maybe it is. But I've realized that I've got to start, bringing in professional help. And so I've been doing that. So we now have a series of contractors and part-time people that have to be able to get on the property on their schedule, that we approve, and they can work around the shooters. And so we have to have a more formalized traffic control point to get people in and out of the property. And also, like, for example, even if it's, even if I can just open the stuff remotely, what if you can't get a hold of me? What if I'm traveling? What if I'm out of the country? What if the internet's down and somebody needs to get on the property, they can't get in, or someone needs to get out of the property and they can't get out? Can't have that. So yeah, so that's another big project we're working on. And so, that was basically the past 10 days. So this is a subject I have not broached directly on the podcast, and I haven't really broached it publicly, really on any of our social media, and I only did it if I count today being Sunday is still this week, I only broached it the previous week. So when Kraken was in town and we were shooting, and I have a video of it, we were shooting our French FRF2 Sniper Rifle. And the gun was keyholing at 100 yards. And unfortunately for me, because I've been so busy, that was the first time I'd shot the gun. And even more unfortunate was I'd owned a gun for a number of years and never checked it. And I'm ashamed to admit this, but you would be surprised at how many guns we have in a reference collection that I purchased I have never shot. Because I haven't gotten around to it, which is why the previous segment, I need to ask for help. Need to have professionals coming in. I can't do it all myself, so I can have more time to shoot guns and have fun. That's the whole tagline of John1911. So, reached out to Navy Arms, and it's been 8 months, and there's been trouble over there. And I'm not saying anything out of turn at this point. That's because I had to get a lawyer involved. And so Navy Arms did send an FRF2 back to us, either after realizing, I'm not sure why, I'm not crapping on them yet, but I feel like I at least need to, let our listeners know before you read it on somebody else's YouTube channel, that, we've had issues there. It got really bad, and it became obvious that I was going to sue them. And I felt like it was needlessly getting out of control. Like I let this fester for so long, and finally at the 11th hour, they decided, oh my God, this person's real, and this person's going to sue us. So a replacement FRF2 sniper rifle has shown up. There is a small problem with it, I'm going to reach out to them and hopefully get it addressed, and hopefully we still don't have to pursue litigation. The fact I'm even talking about this publicly is not my style. Fellow members and contributors around here will tell you that there's a lot that we discuss that I tell everybody, like, we do not discuss this publicly, because we're not living out loud like that, and I'm not proud of having to do this. But we have a gun from Navy Arms. I will tell you just on first glance, the gun that showed up is a replacement gun. In the grand scheme of like a French Milsurp FRF2 sniper rifle, condition-wise, it's gorgeous. There's just no two ways about it. The rifling looks extremely strong. The condition of the rifle as a military surplus is fantastic. It has some wear on it, but compared to like what we had before and the things we were experiencing with shot out barrels, like this is, it can't get any newer than this unless you got, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a factory refurb that was used a little bit and then, surplused out. So that's good. There is an issue. There's a piece missing that is impossible to get and going to be very expensive. And I will assume at this point and give the benefit of the doubt, I don't know why I would do that, but that this was just omitted by accident, because why not? Everything else is out of control. So we'll be reaching out to Navy Arms, and hopefully this doesn't get any uglier. So I'm hoping this is the end of it. So, but you'll see pictures and videos of the French FRF2. And I guess for those of you that don't know, or maybe you've forgotten because this has gone on for so long, it's not just the rifle that we're in here. Like with the FRF2 sniper rifle, we have the rifle. We bought the aftermarket scope base that Navy Arms had manufactured. It's pretty high quality. So you could put regular modern scopes and rings on the gun. That was like $600. And then we also, when Scrome in France decided to reproduce the J8 military spec sniper scope that was issued with these guns, new manufacture, cases, eyepieces, sunshades, carry boxes or storage boxes, manuals, all the stuff, that was, I don't know, 8-9 months or a year, and that was over $3,000 for those. I mean, we're in these guns for at least $10, if not $11,000. So yeah, it's got to be dealt with. So we don't need perfection, but dude, it can't be ridiculous. So we'll be shooting it relatively soon, just because our lawyers are going to require it. So that'll probably pop up in the next, I would like to think this week. Even if I shoot it this week, I probably won't get the video up, but yeah, it's going to get shot soon. And hopefully with all the help, I can get all the guns shot soon. So let's get off this segment and move on to fun stuff. Here's something fun. So I put up a video, of all things, about a cheap 1911 made by a company called TSIS. Well, I guess it's branded as Military Armament Corporation, MAC, which is owned by SDS, which is an importer in Tennessee. And they have this, they were the, I would assume, the sole importer for the TSIS manufactured, and TSIS has another name too, weapons and 1911s in the United States. And apparently, no, not apparently, everyone knows this, TSIS has seen such a growth in the United States. They even have a contract with CMP now to make GI base guns that, you become a member of CMP, or you can qualify CMP. You can buy 1911s through the CMP because they're running out of real GI 1911s. And these are Parkerized GI guns, and they're priced appropriately. They're not crazy expensive, and they would make good guns so kids or young competitors can shoot them and tinker with them. And in theory, as time goes on, these could be, these could end up being pretty good, possibly good base guns. TSIS guns are not fit particularly well. Some of the parts are pretty decent quality. That's where the value is. This is where we're getting into my opinion of TSIS. I think a TSIS gun at $300 is a really good value. I think a TSIS gun at $700 is getting suspect, and I think a TSIS gun over $1,000 is like hell the fuck no. So with that said, and talking about how TSIS has had all this success, they have broken away from SDS, the importer, and created an entity in the United States called TSIS USA. And I believe it's called TSIS USA. That's what we all call it. And so their relationship with SDS and MAC has ended. Well, some of the TSIS guns that they made, and we bought some of these, are, for example, a GI 1911, GI spec 1911 in 9mm, because why not? I mean, I live in a 9mm world. Of course I want this gun in 9mm. They had made a clone of the the latest 1911 that the Marine Corps had come up with for their they call it, I think, the Force Recon. I'm not going to say MUSOC because that's gonna muddy the waters, but it's like the 1911, like, is it M45 CQB, I think is what Colt called it, but it was a railgun, a 1911 and 45, because the Marine Corps was running out of access to real GI guns, and they were trying to commercial off the shelf stuff like from Kimber, and it was getting ridiculous. So they came out with those. Well, TSIS made a kind of a knockoff of that gun for Military Armament Corporation. Those had popped up at a discount. We bought one, and because their TSIS and SDS is breaking up, Palmetto State Armory was all of a sudden, it was within like 2 hours, I think these guns were gone. PSA was blowing out another clone that they had done, which is the MUSOC clone. So, the Military Expeditionary Unit Special Operations Capable, the MUS, they're, like the Recon 1911s. So that traditionally you would see in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. My generation, those guns were cloned by a guy named Dave Berryhill. Today, I think you've got KC Customs, you've got Valor Precision in upstate Ohio, and you spend big money on these clones, on these GI clones. But PSA was blowing out, kind of a look-alike clone with Pachmayr grips and all that, and we did a video on it for $300. And hell yeah, I'll buy that for $300. I mean, I always said I don't need another 45 caliber 1911, especially like I've got all these like semi-custom and custom guns. But, you know, it was like, okay, $300, yeah, we can shoot it on video. It's kind of a clone of a Musoc. I'm never going to buy a Dave Berryhill gun because I can't justify it because I'm going to carry, like, I shoot and train with the Wilsons. So, like, I mean, come on. Like, so, yeah, it's fine. So, did a video on this, and it got a lot of traffic, and some people were disappointed because I did the video, like, why are these so cheap? And I guess people were thinking, and it's kind of my mistake, but people were thinking they could go and find a gun right now at that price. And, you know, like I have no relationship with Palmetto State Armory or any of these online gun dealers. So I'm a consumer just like you. They don't even know John1911 exists. Like, they don't even know us as an entity even exists. They don't care. But the video, got a lot of traction, and it was generally good, but it had been a long time since I'd done a video that would smoke out a lot of the gun forum, 1911 gun forum type dudes. And, a lot of those guys are really argumentative, and they're like, we would get these series of comments where somebody who, they would see the title of the video or they would see the thumbnail, and I swear they didn't watch the video because they would accuse me of saying things I didn't say about guns that aren't even mentioned in the video. Whether it's like, this is a nice gun or this is a whatever gun, or how this gun compares. And then they would basically use it as not, they create an argument, and then they would really use it as just an excuse to list their resume as like their appeal to authority. Like, well, I know this person and I knew that, and this person told me this and this, and like, it's just really all about them. And I'm like, oh, okay, I realize I'm talking to a person who probably spends all his time on a gun forum, who wants to argue with me about stuff I didn't even say, about guns that aren't even mentioned in this video. And this dude probably hasn't shot 500 rounds in the past 6 months. And I'm like, yeah, like, oh yeah, I forgot what it was like to be popular on the internet. So, yeah, that was fun. So we have this video on the Musoc. We're going to start doing, some, bullseye stuff with it and whatever. But that was kind of fun. And, we'll come up with more ways to smoke out more of these pedantic people from the gun forums. And in breaking news, another segment from PSA. PSA blew out another gun, and it was gone within, I think it was gone in less than 2 hours, and we snatched one up because it was on our long-term to-buy list. And, I mean, we haven't shot it. We've racked it. Like, we've picked it up. It's called the Springfield Hellion. It's a bullpup gun from Croatia. I think in Croatia they call them the VHS2s. I think it's VHS2, or maybe it's VH2. But it's like this modern bullpup gun, and it's been on our long-term to-do list, or to-buy list, because, one, it's an interesting gun. I'm not a giant bullpup person, but the newer ones are so interesting, and they're trying to overcome the limitations of a lot of the older bullpups. I think they're worth at least having in a collection for whatever reason, familiarization or whatever you want to do with them. But, like, I'm not going to spend I don't want to spend $2,000 on one. I don't want to spend $1,800 on one. Well, PSA, all of a sudden, for some reason, I don't know what's going on with the Hellion. Maybe there's a new version of the Hellion coming out, Hellion. They're blowing out for $1,200. And I was like, okay, well, we'll do that. So that has popped up. And I guess, some people are surprised. Like, I'm kind of surprised you would go with the bullpup route. Well, it's not going to be a primary training gun. I mean, at this rate, I'm going to be lucky if I even shot it, which, again, I got to solve that problem. But I have to tell you a story to explain why, like, a gun like this, why we bought it. So, and it happens to be a bullpup, so I think it's kind of appropriate. So there is a gun made by FN called, overseas, the fully automatic version is called the F2000. It's a bullpup gun. It has what's known as the toilet seat on the back of it, where you can lift the lid like a toilet seat and look down into the chamber, and it actually ejects literally out the front of the gun over the barrel. Like it literally, they dribble out the front. They don't come out the side. So it's this really weird, truly ambidextrous bullpup kind of space age gun. I think you might see them in not Starship Troopers, Stargate, or maybe that's the other version. It's the whatever it's called. So the F2000. Well, it's sold in the U.S. for a while. They were trying to get police contracts and whatever. The semi-automatic version called the FS2000, and the FS2000 was on my to-buy list for a long time, and too long, and I got lazy and I let them go. And then eventually, out of the blue, FN not being dumb, because they want to, FN's got new guns out. They've got their new caliber rifles. They've got their upgraded version of the SCAR. They've got their basically SCAR. It's a SCAR operating system that's really an AR with a T charging handle. Like, they needed to free up the line. Like, you can see why they dropped the F2000 or the FS2000. So they announced that they're dropping it. And these guns went sky high. They are a cheap one right now is $3,500. They're routinely in the fours. Sometimes you see people listing them for $5,000. They don't get it unless there's something about, the FS2000 market that I don't understand, maybe like a different color. But they're routinely in the 4,000s, and I just want to vomit in my mouth. It's like, I should have bought one of those, and I still want to get one, but there's going to come a day when I'm going to have to like throw myself on the grenade just to get one of these guns, and I'm just going to be hating life. And I'm like, I will never, ever, 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 ever do that again. So when the PSA blows out these guns for $1,200, and like every gun that isn't an AR, that isn't adopted, eventually will be discontinued and it will go away. And then all of a sudden it'll be collectible and you can't get them anymore, and they'll be sky high. And, I'm not paying that for, a Hellion. So just get one for $1,200. So, but if you're going to be in a position to do that, when that email comes in and you see that gun, you got to go right now. Like, I am not kidding. Those guns went out of stock. I think those guns went out of stock in about 70 minutes. Because we had an email from somebody over PSA with the order, and when I went to just happen to look in, and I was like looking at the product listing, they were out of stock, and I was like, holy shit, like, I don't know how few they had of them or how many they sold, but they sold them. So don't have a video on it yet. Don't have a opinion on the gun yet. I mean, I don't think I've racked the thing. I took it out of a box and mounted it to the wall in one of the armories. So stay tuned if you want to see more on the Springfield Hellion VHS2. In kind of another segment, in kind of personal news, and also, in our like driving off-road outdoor section of the website, we're doing, I do occasional updates on the Porsche. I guess I should say the year 2015 911 991.1 2S Cabriolet. If you're a Porsche person, you understand what I just said. If you're not a Porsche person, I sounded like I was clicking like, I don't know, like some kind of crazy, language you never heard. So anyway, this car went in for its annual service. We are at 51,000 miles, and we have actually filmed a video on the update of that. It's like what it costs to keep these cars running, and that'll be coming. I don't know. It may come like maybe next week or something. I mean, again, we're primarily a gun, and military milsurp type website. There's a motorcycle going by, and they're going to be like super car heavy, but that's definitely coming. So stay tuned if you're a Porsche person. Oh, I guess I should add this. The Grenadier is less than 4,000 miles due for its 24,000 mile, every 12,000 mile service. So that'll be interesting too when we get the video on that. Now it's time for some industry news. So here's the new segment. I was glad to see this because I was honestly worried that Camp Perry was going to fall apart. If you're not really into the whole paying attention to the national matches and all that kind of stuff, you probably aren't really aware. And I think even a lot of people in the space aren't really aware. But like there was a lot of trouble up there at Camp Perry for a while because, long story short, Camp Perry is a military reservation. It's run by the Ohio National Guard up on Lake Erie. And it, a bunch of people, a bunch of organizations run their matches off that property. And, the National Guard still operates off that property. And there's even some contractors that are adjacent to the property. They do testing. They have facilities like right next door. And so it can be kind of a busy place. And it's, it's not like that large. It's a nice facility, but it's not like Norfolk or like some major base. It's pretty small. And what was happening is you were seeing different groups getting into arguments about, upgrades that they needed, who's going to pay for them, other people don't want to do it. And like, there's all this bickering because, a lot of people have been there for 100 years. And what ended up happening is you started seeing matches leaving Camp Perry. You saw matches moving to Camp Atterbury in Indiana. And then you saw CMP really expanding into Alabama. They've got a couple facilities in Alabama, and I think CMP has now worked out a deal possibly with the Whittington Center. I think is that in Arizona. And so it looked to me like Camp Perry, the CMP North Store, might close. Like no one was telling me that, but I was getting kind of nervous about it because, we can drive up there. Well, it was just announced. CMP announces major expansion at Camp Perry Civilian Marksmanship Program. This is July 14, 2026. Civilian Marksmanship Program is excited to announce a major expansion at Camp Perry that will strengthen the future marksmanship training, competition, and youth development in the United States. The project is scheduled to break ground on August 3rd, 2026. So right after they finish the matches up there. They're shooting matches up there right now this summer. And so in a couple weeks, with an estimated completion date of December of 2027. Once completed, the new facility will build upon the success of the Gary Anderson CMP Competition Center by adding, and here's the list, a modern indoor range, expanded retail space, competitor support areas, and gathering spaces to serve athletes, coaches, spectators, families, sponsors, and visitors. An old friend of mine, a late friend of mine, Colonel Dustin Saunders from West Point, he went to Camp Perry for many, many years, and I'm a little sad that he didn't get to see some of this, so he would have really appreciated it. So I know some of us in my circle, we had been going up during the matches because you could go on Vendors Row, and we were having issues getting Vendors Row to work out because some of the matches were leaving, and so some of the vendors were kind of pulling out because they weren't getting enough traffic. And I don't know if that's quite rectified itself or not, but I'm going to talk to some of the people in my circle and see if maybe we'll be taking another trip up to Camp Perry maybe next summer. So if you are a Camp Perry person or a national matches person, some of the renderings, like I'm looking at, like places to eat, all kinds of, it looks really, really interesting. I'll have links in the on the website in the comment section for expansions at the CMP North Store. So that's really cool. So here's a cool one that didn't get picked up by the media, and I thought it was worth mentioning. So you may recall in recent history that Donald Trump was in Turkey, and there was an incident where he was flying the red, white, and blue Air Force One, and then they decided to switch him to one of the other original Air Force Ones, the baby blue ones. And, the rumor is that the baby blue ones obviously have more self-defense weapons on them. The red, white, and blue Air Force One probably isn't as fully tricked out because I think they got it like ready in like 8 months. So it takes 4 years to get an Air Force One running. So there's some debate. Like, the reason they did all this with Trump is apparently there was a plot to kill Trump, I would assume with a manpad or series of manpads taking off, because he was in Turkey for the NATO summit. And I guess the Iranians wanted to, take a shot at him. So Secret Service did a couple of shenanigans and, kind of surreptitiously got him out of got him off the X, off schedule, and then kind of, tricked everybody as to when he was there and when he wasn't. Well, I'm telling you that to tell you this story. At the NATO summit, which is held in Turkey, so Turkey is the host nation, a member of NATO, a longtime member of NATO, actually, President Erdogan decided to gift all the NATO leaders handguns. And it's interesting. It's kind of funny. So I'm going to read you this headline. This is from Euronews. When NATO leaders opened their gift boxes from the Turkish president and found a .357 Magnum revolver, some panicked and others laughed. But gifting heads of state lavish personalized firearms as a tradition as old as Samuel Colt and as recent as a Czech pistol presented to Trump in 2019. So let's see here. Let's take a look at the gun. I see a picture of the gun. I'll describe it to you in a second. But these are made in Turkey. And, it was interesting because the media would ask various countries, what's going to happen to the gun. And so some of the countries would say the gun's going to be deactivated and then it'll be put, to comply to be imported in our country. And then it'll go into their museums or something. Other countries are like, yeah, we're going to shoot it. Like, it's really interesting. And I think it actually came with ammo. It comes in a black velvet. It looks like a mahogany or dark stained walnut case. It's stainless steel. I guess I would call that an 8-inch barrel possibly, and it has a big Turkish Muslim crest and star on it. That symbol that's on the Turkish flag. It looks like it's got a version of like a nil grip on it, and it's stainless, or maybe it's chrome plated, but it's bright. It's a shiny silver, and looking at the lock work, at least the release level, it looks like a Colt Python to me. It definitely has a Colt style release lever on it. So, they're calling it, what does it say on the side? Gitanas Naueseda, Gitanas Naueseda. So it looks like a pretty cool gun. I don't know if the Turks can make guns for CMP. Maybe the Turks can make Colt Pythons or something. So, but it was just interesting to see various people, like apparently some of these leaders, I guess they got these, they're like, here's a gift box. Thank you for coming to the conference, and, blah, 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 blah. And they just took the box and left. And it wasn't until later that they realized that they have a firearm with actual live ammo in it. And, they're like, some of them are freaking out. So, of course, because Europeans. We'll have pictures of it on the website, and tell me what you think. You think they should, I don't know, I could be completely wrong. Is Turkey importing into the U.S. a Colt Python knockoff? Is there some company bringing this gun in already that I'm not aware of? Because it seems like this would be like the third company now that's basically would be making a Colt Python type gun. Again, assuming this gun even actually has lock work like a Colt Python, just because it's got the release lever for the cylinder latch that looks like a Colt that you pull backwards doesn't mean the lock works like a Colt. But I don't know. Cool story, cool gun. Thought it was worth mentioning. Enjoy the pictures in the comment section. Here's a story worth what. Two more stories are coming out of Kentucky, and they're going to kind of negate each other out. But just you're going to have to listen to both of them to understand my point. So the first story comes out of Kentucky. Apparently there was a lawsuit against a company called Husky Armory LLC. And the way the article is written is kind of slanted as anti-gun, which is, fine. So I will translate. But basically, Husky Armory LLC, according to the media, sells ghost guns. And so they sold a gun, a Glock 19, a G19 build kit in 2023. And apparently an 18-year-old man named Henry Willis bought this Glock 19 build kit from Husky Armory, and he assembled it in his garage, telling his father it was a transistor radio. Unfortunately, 6 days later, he killed himself. So the family sued Husky Armory LLC, and I guess Everytown Law represented the family, and they were able to get a $104.2 million award against Husky Armory. Now, we'll see if this holds up, because, they're saying they skirted federal law. And I think some of it is, it's not just that it's, is this a gun, is it not a gun? But it's also the fact that someone who under the age of 21, and it's, a pistol build kit. So there's multiple issues there. I never heard of Husky Armory. A lot of these build kit guns, I don't build guns. Like, a lot of stuff is cheap to me. So I would assume that if Husky Armory is really going to get hit with a $100 million lawsuit, Husky Armory is gone. They're not worth $100 million. They don't have $100 million of anything. So that's just going to go nowhere. But, it'll be worth noting over how, this is going to be handled, as far as these build kits, and whether this goes, this could in theory go up. I can't remember what the latest position of, if the Supreme Court has ever actually touched on the quote ghost gun thing. I can't remember, but that'll be absolutely worth following. And here's the second story, and this is why this is pertinent to the first story. Dateline, Kentucky, United States. The Kentucky State Legislature has passed a bill that allows, on Tuesday, so just a few days ago, allowing 18 to 20-year-olds to apply for a provisional concealed carry license for the first time. So there's usually been some, there'll be court cases where it's like, wait a minute, you're 18, you're adult, you have constitutional rights, you can sign up for give your life for your country, but you can't buy a handgun, or maybe you can be given one, or maybe you can't carry a handgun, or maybe you can't get a permit to carry a handgun. Well, Kentucky decided very quickly, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's related to the Husky Armory case, but basically Kentucky passed a law that says 18, 19, 20-year-olds can apply to get a CCW permit in the state of Kentucky, and it's good until they're 21. Then they have to get background check and I guess normal stuff to get their gun permit, like to carry concealed. And Kentucky's very liberal on carrying guns. Kentucky, I think, was the first state I've ever heard, even before Texas possibly, that you could legally carry a gun in your glove box in Kentucky and not have a gun permit. Like, that was true a long time ago. We're on the border of Kentucky. I'm in Kentucky almost every day. So, I'm not unfamiliar with this. So, but apparently they want to formalize CCW with a CCW license for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. And it's probably going to be a CCW permit to carry a handgun, not to carry a rifle. But maybe I don't know if it's a carry handgun permit or a carry weapons permit. That I don't remember. But here's what's interesting too. This bill comes up, legislature passes it, goes to the governor's desk, who's a Democrat, Steve Beshear, who wants to run for president. He vetoes it, and then the legislature overrides his veto and says, F you, we're doing this. Kentuckians under 21 have constitutional rights, and they can defend themselves, and we're going to make it official. So I don't know how that's going to, I don't know if this will be a factor in the previous case with the Husky Armory, but it certainly is interesting, because one of the arguments is 18-year-old handgun, but it wasn't a handgun. It was like this build kit thing that's not legally a handgun. And then Kentucky's like, by the way, 18-year-old handgun, yeah, not only handgun, from uncle, 18-year-old can get a CCW permit. So, yeah, like, this is really interesting. Nobody's putting these two together but me. That's because, we're on the border with Kentucky. So, yeah, I thought it was worth sharing. Now it's time for your favorite part of the podcast. The most, definitely by far the most popular part of the podcast, the most popular segment. It's been we've been doing this podcast, I think, for 10 years or however long, and it's always been the most popular. The police blotter, or the blotter. The first story comes out of Las Vegas. And so poker player robbed of $57,000. And you're like, sounds like he went to the wrong poker game. So, well, here's the blotter. Professional poker player claimed he was hogtied and robbed at his Las Vegas Airbnb after winning big at the World Series tournament. I didn't know they still had those. Jared Greiner, 40, alleged the thieves made off at $57,000 he had in his backpack after cashing out from the World Series of Poker main event, which is held across the adjoining Horseshoe at the Paris Las Vegas casinos. I know the Horseshoe, but Paris Las Vegas, I never heard of that casino. Doorbell footage captured a barefoot Greiner, 40, with duct tape around his wrist, begging for a neighbor for help shortly after the alleged robbery. Greiner claimed that he came home from a tournament around 8 p.m. on Sunday and found two men waiting inside his rental. He allegedly, they tackled him to the ground for hogtying him, placing dishes on his back so they would hear if he began moving. That's actually kind of ingenious in a way. He claimed they threatened to kill him, so he told the thieves that the money was in his car. So, okay, I'm not going to go into all of this here, but there's pictures of him. He's holding a bunch of money. I'm looking at a screenshot of him at a doorbell with, I don't know. The first thing is, when you see a story like this, you got to ask yourself, I wonder if this is like an inside job. And I'm not talking like an inside job to set him up. Part of me is wondering, like, is there a hook here that he would fake this? Just, got to ask. So that's the first one for the police blotter. Look at the pictures in the comment section. Let me know what you think. So here's another one. Here's the next police blotter. And this one involves immigration. And this is what, the joke would be involving OTM. So there's only two types of, the joke was, there's only two types of people at the border. There's Mexicans and OTMs. And you're like, what's OTM other than Mexican? So a Canadian woman in the United States was arrested and then deported from the United States after she attacked a teen for wearing MAGA gear. So, you got to see pictures of this. So a Canadian woman living in New Jersey who allegedly slapped a teenage girl for wearing patriotic MAGA branded clothing is set to be deported. So it's like, just as an aside, like if I see some dumb hippie wearing Che Guevara shirts in Canada, can I bitch slap them? Like, is that morally okay? Or, I guess I'll get deported. I would assume I would get deported, but I'm just like, I don't know. I wonder, like, are the Canadians, are they proud of this? Like I'm going to tell you this, like when an American went to Singapore and was caught vandalizing cars, this was many years ago, and he was a teenager, like young 20-year-old or something. And one of the punishments over there in Singapore is they were going to cane him. Like they were going to take, a cane and whip his ass. I can't remember, like 33 lashes or something. Like all these people were crying and like, oh, he could die, tear his skin, all this. And like, so then the government got involved and like they ended up commuting it and they deported him and he'd never come back to Singapore. But what they never reported on NBC, ABC, and CBS back in the day is everybody in America was like, fuck that guy. Everyone in America that really, like real Americans, were like, cane that little bitch ass, for going over there, vandalizing people's cars, which are hard to get in Singapore, by the way. And then, making America look bad. So I wonder how Canadians feel about this woman. And you got to see this woman. You see her pictures, you're like, of course. of course, yeah, she's got the, the Dayglow hair and, the look. So, according to court documents, a group of friends were walking on a boardwalk when I guess the deported is named Tracy, berated them for wearing patriotic-colored sweatpants before slapping one of the girls across her face and body. Now, here's where it kind of gets, speaking to the men in the audience, which is most of you, speaking to fathers, which is many of you. Can you imagine if your teenage daughter was out in public and some grown-ass woman hit your daughter because she was wearing a MAGA hat? Or, okay, hit your daughter because she's wearing an Obama hat? I mean, this girl got lucky she got arrested and deported. Because, I mean, there's parts of this country, they would break this girl. Like, you touch somebody's daughter, you touch some little teenage girl, dude, this stupid fuck. Like Canada, what's going on up there? And then even make it worse, this woman, she's married. She fled the scene, and she was arrested on Monday. Her husband shared a TikTok video of himself crying over her arrest, saying through tears, "I need help. My wife is being detained by ICE." It's like, well, don't come to America and commit crimes and, with your little nose ring and your fluorescent hair and assaulting women and girls, and maybe your ass won't get deported. Okay, final police blotter. We're going to go ahead and toss this one. And this one's going to be a crime that we don't normally cover. But, let me just read you the synopsis and we'll go ahead and get into it, and you know why it made the blotter. Arson suspect arrested. And you're like, I don't know, like, what did he burn down? Like, why would, I'm Catholic, like me, maybe burn down the church. I'm like, Marky's going to go after that. Oh, no. Stay with me. Dateline, Indiana. An arson case in Indiana took a stunning twist when authorities claimed the suspect had admitted to cutting off his own genitals before setting them ablaze. Christopher Pendon, 36, mind you, he's 36, told Fort Wayne police that he had been stabbed, according to court documents, but authorities alleged that Pendon later acknowledged a story he had told them was not true. Instead, Pendon allegedly informed law enforcement he had gone into a detached garage and harmed himself. Pendon said he had done this by cutting off his penis with a kitchen knife. He then allegedly poured gasoline on it and set it on fire. Set it on fire on the floor of the garage just inside the door around 2 a.m. Fort Wayne Fire Department then called that day to investigate a fire in a garage. Around the same time, police responded to a stabbing, according to report affidavit. So yeah, the fire department shows up bringing the hose, and literally they realize, oh no, the hose is already here. So, all right. Well, that wraps up episode 409 of the John 1911 Podcast. Want to see more stories or pictures, link anything disgusting, including detached penises, please go to the website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Have a good night.